This super cute bandana may be worn both around the neck or as a headscarf in the cozy cottagecore style. Keep watching and I'll show you exactly how to make it. So today I'm using the Batik Elements Squirrel, which is a DK weight yarn, a double knitting weight, and I'm also using the Bellissima double knit, which is also by Stylecraft. You can use any variegated yarn that you have plus one kind of neutral colour, and that will work really well for you. So I'm going to be using a 4mm hook, some scissors and a darning needle. We're going to be starting with our variegated yarn, so I'm just going to put a slip knot on my hook and chain 4. It's 1, 2, 3, 4. Then I'm going to join to that first chain with a slip stitch to form a ring. And I'm then going to chain 3, 1, 2 and 3. This counts as our first double crochet. We're now going to be working into that ring. So I'm going to put another double crochet in there. Followed by one more double crochet. And now we're going to chain 2. This is the first corner of our granny square. Then we're going to put 3 double crochet into that ring. So this is also known as a granny cluster. That's 1, 2 and 3. We will then chain 2 for the next corner, followed by another 3 double crochet into that ring. Chain 2 again for the next corner, and again 3 double crochet into that ring. And then we're just going to chain 2 for that final corner and join with a slip stitch to the top of that chain 3. And that's our first round of the granny square. Now, as we're only using 2 colours, you can carry your yarn instead of having to fasten off after each round. So I'm going to show you how to do that. If you're using scrap yarn to make yours and you're using different yarn each round, then you will fasten off and join into a corner and chain 3 to start off your next round. But because I'm going to be carrying the yarn and not fastening off, what I'm going to do is slip stitch into this next stitch, and then I'm going to slip stitch into the following stitch. But instead of slip stitching, instead of picking up this yarn, I'm going to pick up the new colour, lay that over the hook and just draw that through to finish off that slip stitch. And then I'm going to take that, the old colour, just hold it to the corner, and I'm then going to slip stitch into that corner space, just working over that, the other yarn, like so. Now we want to carry the variegated yarn up so that it's ready for the following round. So by doing that, we're just going to simply, first of all, we're going to chain 1, then we're going to lay the variegated yarn over the hook, chain 2, and then chain 3. So that chain 3 counts as our first double crochet. We're then just going to move this out of the way and forget about that, and then we can work over this tail as we finish off our corner. Oops, I seem to have lost part of the stitch there. Okay, so we're now going to continue with the first corner. So I'm going to put 2 more double crochet into that corner space. It's 1 and 2, and then we're going to chain 2 for our corner. All of our corners are made exactly the same way. Another 3 double crochet into that same space, and then we're ready to work into the next corner. So that's 3 double crochet, 1, 2 and 3, chain 2 and 3 more double crochet. It's 1, 2 and 3. So you're just going to go ahead and work your remaining 2 corners, 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet into each of those 2 remaining corners. Okay, so we're coming up to the end of the round, so I'm just going to join with the slip stitch to the top of that chain 3. And then just like we did before, we're going to slip stitch across to this next corner, but we want to carry this yarn across with us. So I'm going to put my hook into the next stitch, just going to lay that other yarn across the top, slip stitch, and then in the next slip stitch I'm going to drop that colour and pick up variegated yarn and finish off that slip stitch. And then just like we did before, slip stitch into that corner, working over the carried yarn, and then we're going to chain 1, lay that one over, chain 2 and chain 3, and then we're just going to leave that one behind and forget about it. And then we're going to start our next corner. So this is the round you're going to be repeating. So you're going to put 2 more double crochet into that corner space, chain 2, and then 3 double crochet, all in that same space. So now we've got spaces along the sides. So on subsequent rounds, each time you get to a space on the side, you're going to just put 3 double crochet in there, a granny cluster into each space around the sides. And then every time you get to a corner, 3 double crochet, chain 2, and a 3 double crochet. So you go on ahead, put your granny cluster in each space across the sides, and then in each corner 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet. And once you get to the end of the round, you're just going to join with a slip stitch to the top of that chain 3, and then you're ready to start your next round. So you're really just going to alternate between your colours every round and keep making your granny, keep adding rounds until your granny square is as big as you need it to be for your particular size. So if you do need all the information for the different sizes and all of the yarn quantities for each size, then please check out the written pattern. So you want to make a total of 4 rounds for your granny squares and 6 granny squares all together. We're then going to move on to making the triangle motifs. So just like with the granny squares, we're going to start with a contrast colour. I'm going to pop a slip knot on my hook, and I'm going to chain 4. It's 1, 2, 3 and 4, and then join with a slip stitch to that first chain to form a ring. Then going to chain 3. This counts as our first double crochet. We're now going to start working into the ring, and I'm going to put 3 double crochet into the ring. That's 1, 2 and 3. We're now going to, at the top point of the triangle, so we're going to chain 2 for that corner space, and then I'm going to put 4 double crochet into the ring. That's 1, 2, 3 and 4, and we're now going to fasten off. So we're actually working in rows now for the triangle rather than rounds, but don't worry, I'm going to show you how to work over all those tails. Okay, so that's our first row. We're going to swap to our main colour. Now you're looking for the space between your chain 3, the starting chain here, and your first granny cluster, your first group of 3 stitches. So you're going to put your hook between those two, between the chain 3 and that first double crochet. Draw your yarn through and chain 3. 1, 2, 3. This counts as a double crochet. We're going to put 3 more double crochet into that same space. It's 1, 2 and 3. Now halfway through the stitch I'm going to carry this tail across with me to the corner. So I've made the first part of the double crochet, I'm laying the tail over the hook, and then I'm going to finish off that double crochet. What that does is just lifts that tail up to the same height as the stitch, so you don't get any floats across the back of your work. And we're then going to draw that across to the corner, and then we're going to put a double crochet into that corner space. So I'm going around the working yarn and that tail, and then into the corner, picking up that loop, and then working our double crochet as normal. And then you just give that a little tug, that tail, and it disappears into the stitch. And now we can work over this tail in this corner space. So I'm going to put 2 more double crochet into the same space for our granny cluster. And now we're at the corner, so we're going to chain 2 for the corner space, and then put 3 more double crochet into that same space. It's 1, 2, and 3. So we've worked over that tail, so we can just snip that off at the end. And now we're almost at the end of the row. We're going to work between that last double crochet and then the previous double crochet. We're going to go into the space between them with 4 double crochet. That's 1, 2, 3, and 4. And again, we're going to fasten off at the end of this row. So we're alternating back to our contrast colour. And this next row is started off in exactly the same way. We're just going to put a hook between the chain 3 and that first double crochet. Bring that yarn through and chain 3. 1, 2, 3. Again, this counts as a double crochet. We're going to put 3 more into that same space. It's 1, 2, and on this last stitch I'm going to work half the stitch, and I'm going to pick up that tail, finish off that stitch, and we're going to carry it over to this first space across the sides. So once you get in the spaces across the sides, we're just going to put 3 double crochet. It's 1, 2, and then on this last double crochet I'm going to carry that yarn across again so that I can work over it in that corner space. So at the corner we're going to put 3 double crochet into this corner space. It's 1, 2, and 3. Chain 2 for the corner, and then 3 more double crochet into that same space. And now we've got 1 space across the sides. We're going to put 3 double crochet in there. It's 1, 2, and 3, and then we're coming up to our last granny cluster, which we're going to put between the last 2 double crochet in that space between them. So that's 4 double crochet in there, granny cluster and an extra double crochet. That's 3 and 4. Whoops. And then we're going to fasten off that row. So again, we're going to join in our main colour. And chain 3. And we're going to put 3 more double crochet in that same space. 1, 2, and 3. And again, I'm going to carry this tail so I don't have to weave it in later. Over to this next space, 3 double crochet into that space. It's 1, 2, and on this last stitch again I'm going to carry that yarn. I like to work over it in the corner space because then you've got six stitches holding it in place. So 3 double crochet into this next space. And then we're at the corner again, so we're going to put 3 double crochet. 1, 2, 3, chain 2 and 3 double crochet. And now across the sides we're simply going to put a granny cluster into each space across the sides. That's 3 double crochet into each space. And then in between the last 2 stitches, 4 double crochet. And we're not actually going to fasten off here, so we're now going to just work a few stitches across the bottom so that the bottom of our triangle has got the same border around the edge. It's all one colour along the bottom. So we're going to chain 2. So this will be our corner of the triangle. I'm going to work over these tails as I work across. Now I'm working around the post of this stitch here, and I'm just going to put 2 single crochet in there, working over that tail at the same time. It's 1, 2, and then I'm going to go around the post of the next row, the last stitch on the row, and I'm going to put 2 single crochet. It's 1, 2, and then I'm going to move on to the end of the next row, so 2 single crochet in there. So now we've got our ring that we started with, so I'm going to put 2 single crochet in there as well. It's 1, 2, and then continue along this edge, working over these tails as well, with 2 single crochet at the edge of each row around the post of the stitches. Until we get to that last row edge, and then we will chain 2, and I'm going to join to the top of that chain 3 starting chain and then fasten off, and then you should only really have 1 tail to weave in at the end. So I do recommend you go ahead and weave in all your tails before you start joining your pieces together. So you'll want to lay out your squares and your triangles into this triangle shape. The written pattern does have an assembly diagram, so you can refer to that if you're not sure. And we're going to sew our squares together. Now, if you have a preferred method, if you like to join your squares in a different way, you can use whichever method you prefer. But I'm going to sew mine together using mattress stitch, so I like to finish it gets with that. So what we're going to do is you're going to sew your squares all the way across in one direction, across here, and across here, and then you'll start working in the opposite direction, joining the remaining sides of your squares until everything is joined, and I'll show you how I join with the mattress stitch. You want a piece of yarn in your main colour 2 to 3 times the length of the size you're joining. Just thread your yarn onto a darning needle. So I'm going to start in the corner of my square. I'm going to go kind of behind the back loops of the 2 corner stitches, just going out one way and then in the other. I'm going to leave a tail to sew in later. And then I'm going to take the opposite square and do exactly the same, go in one way and out the other. And then on the opposite square, I'm going to go in where I came out and then out through the next stitch. And then do exactly the same on the other side. So I like to work for a few stitches and then just to draw the sides together. So you're going to keep working all the way across. And every now and then, once you've worked a few stitches, you're just simply going to draw the two sides together by pulling on that yarn. Once you get to the end of one square, you're going to finish off by just going through those last two corner stitches on both sides. Like so. And then you start off the next two squares in exactly the same way. Just go in and out on those corner stitches. And the same on the other side. And then just continue in exactly the same way all the way across to the end of your motifs. So once you've sewn across all in one direction, all the sides in one direction, you're just going to turn around and then start sewing in the other direction. You go ahead and start doing that, and once you get to the corners here, I'm going to show you a little trick which will make the corners nice and sharp. So once you get to the corners, you're going to want to work through these front loops of the corners to draw everything together. So you just go in and out in each of these corners. You're just working through the two corner stitches. Once you've gone all the way around, you just draw that together and you get nice sharp corners. I like to just go through these an extra time just to bring that yarn back in the right place to carry on sewing the next two sides together. So you're just going to continue sewing together the remainder of your motifs. So once you've got all your motifs joined together, you want to have the longest side of your triangle at the top, and then we're just going to join into this top right corner here. We're just going to join it in our yarn, and we're going to chain 51 for the adult size. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 48, 49, 50 and 51. We're now going to start crocheting into that chain. So in the second stitch from the hook, I'm going to turn this chain over and work into the back bumps, and we're going to put a single crochet into that second stitch, that second chain, and then I'm going to go ahead and put a single crochet through the back bumps of each stitch all the way across your chain. Okay, so I've finished working all the way along my chain. I'm now going to start crocheting across this edge. So I'm going to start by putting a single crochet into this first single crochet stitch we have here. And we're simply going to single crochet into each stitch all the way across. As you're working across, you will get to those chain spaces at the corners of the triangle, so just count that as a stitch, put a single crochet in there, and then move on to the next stitch, and then just continue with a single crochet in each stitch all the way across. Once you've worked all the way across, you should be finishing with your last single crochet in that chain 2 space of the triangle. We're then going to chain 51 for the other side of the ties, just like you did at the beginning. And just like we did for the first tie, we're going to turn our chain over and look for the second stitch, and we're going through the back bumps, and we're just going to put a single crochet in there, and then continue with a single crochet in each stitch all the way across. Once you've worked all the way across your chain, we're then going to start working down the other side. So we're going to put single crochet in there, and then we're going to keep working across with a single crochet into each stitch. So you're going to keep going until you get to this corner point of the bandana. I'm just coming up to a corner here, and just like we did for the points of the triangles, we're going to count the corner spaces as one stitch. If you feel you need to, you could also put an extra stitch in the seam if you want to, and then continue with a single crochet in each stitch all the way across. So we're now at this corner. We're just going to put a single crochet, chain one, and a single crochet, and then continue with a single crochet in each stitch all the way across this side. So once you've worked all the way around, we're just going to slip stitch to the beginning here, and then you can fasten off and weave in your ends. And your finished bandana will look something like this. If you would like to see the matching accessories, then be sure to check out the Elements Granny Square Collection playlist right here on YouTube. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye now.